whatever reason. Okay, so number 1, we have picked to isolate because of the one variable. So moving the 1, okay, what's the next algebraic maneuver here? What? The 3. So I'm going to times each side by 3. So when I times by 3, it cancels a divide by 3. Okay, now I'm going to divide the 2 out. Almost have b alone, so I need to get rid of the square now. So I'm going to square root. And here's where people lose their marks. B could be a positive 3 or a negative 3, right? You have to think, what could square to get me 9? Those both would work. Okay, number 2. It's not isolation. There's 2 variables. Do you recognize the style? Is there a factoring style? Simple trinomial. Okay, so now I'm going to go with a y and a y. So our purpose is to multiply and add, right? Got to make 2 numbers that multiply and add. Do you have your numbers picked out? Did you go with a negative 3 and a negative 4? That will work. So the solution you're asking is what goes in there to make the bracket 0. So that would be a 3. And this one would be a 4. Okay, question 3. There's actually 2 strategies that are available on this one. Does anybody have one strategy that they want to try? Difference of squares. So when you do a difference of squares, you do an x and an x to make your x squared. And then what about the 100 part? A plus and a minus 10, right? And essentially, if you think about your simple trinomial, it adds to 0 in the middle. That's why there's 0x. So x could equal a negative 10 or a positive 10. So when I said there was 2 strategies, what would the other one maybe be? What else could I have done there? Isolate. There's only one variable, so I could have moved the 100 over, and then I could square root both sides. And look how it's also giving me the same answer, right? Do you also see why the plus minus is important when we do that? Because that's what we had before. Okay. Number 4. We need to get a strategy, and it is one of your 4 factoring ones, by the way. GCF. There is something available to take out of all of the terms. What's that, Don? Sorry, how come it's not what? Sorry, I just didn't understand what you're asking. Okay, so the GCF, are you pulling an M out? Everything has an M. Okay, so divide m out. Think about what you're going to be left with, so write that down. Okay, are we good? This is what we look like when the m comes out. Okay, I see more things now. Do you see another factoring? So now I have a simple trinomial. Okay, here's another common mistake. Don't forget that first m. It's still there. Okay, so now just this part multiplies to 14. So 7 times 2. And then we need to make a negative 9 out of it. Okay, and when you are doing this one, you're going to actually have 3 answers, right? So there's 3 values here. If m was a 0, if m was a 7, or a 2. Okay, number 5. How do we go about starting that one? We need a side to be 0. So we got to move something. Okay, I'm going to be going that way, I think, with the 26. Okay, so I rearranged it before I started my strategies. Okay, so now I recognize a simple trinomial. So I want to make 2 numbers multiply to 26. 2 and 13. 2 times 13 would work. Okay, the negative 26 tells me one of them is negative. And you got to be careful, you're trying to get a negative 11. So multiplies to negative 26, adds to negative 11. So your solutions are negative 2 and positive 13. Okay, number 6. How do you want to go about starting that? Move it all to the other side, because what's the thing that I don't like here? I don't like factoring with a negative leader. Okay, so both things would work if I either moved it to the other side or times it by negative 1. So either way, write me what your equation is going to look like now if you did either one of those things. So you can either state that you're timesing both sides by negative 1 or you're moving it to the other side. Doesn't matter. Okay, and then look when you're done just to see if our equations will look the same. Okay, so my signs changed on everything, right? That's what had happened. Okay, now I think I can try to simple trinomial it. Okay, so I got rid of the problem. Now, multiplies to 9, and you got to make an 8 out of it. So does it make sense to pick 9 times 1? And then I need a positive 8. Okay. Number 7. What would be your first instinct or step you want to try here? GCF. There is something I can divide out of all of them. Do you see anything that you want to divide each one by? Just the number 2. So this is going to go x squared. So the next one, instead of 14, 7x, and instead of 20, that's 10. Okay, so now I'm recognizing a simple trinomial. So I need 2 numbers to multiply to 10 and add to 7. Okay, I feel like this one tricks people because they look at this 2 and they're trying to state a solution. Do you understand that this 2 is just a constant, so you're not having an x equal anything there? So you don't need to look at it. You need to look at those positions. So what are the only things you could plug in for x? -5, -2. Okay, so this one kind of tricks people because they feel like they need to make a solution there, but there's nothing to look at. It's a constant. Okay, number 8. What do you think is the strategy? I don't think I can GCF anything out, can I? Because, like, for instance, 17 doesn't divide by anything. What else would I do here? Complex. It's a complex trinomial. So, how do you start complex factoring? To be a complex trinomial, you're starting with something x squared.
Yeah, but the same thing with the other one.
This one, once I took the 2 out, it starts with a 1x squared. But I can't take the 6 out of this because I can't take a 6 out of 17. That's why I can't do that. Do you see here? I could take a 2 out because I was able to take a 2 out of everything. But here I can't take a 6 out. Okay, so my fluid number is 6 times 12. So what is that? 72. Okay, 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3. It is divisible by 3. 24. 4. Yep, 18. Is it divisible by 5? Nope, because it ends with 2. It's probably divisible by 6. Oh yeah, 6 times 12, duh. And 8 times 9, right? So I know that this is positive. So when I'm looking at these numbers, they both have to have 2 positives or 2 negatives. Looking into the middle, what do you think they're both going to be? I'm thinking they both have to be negative, right? Because that's the only way I can multiply to a positive at the same time make a negative number. So which set? Okay, so that's going to work. Positive 72, negative 17. So now I go to my F list and my L list, and I start making those. So 1x, 6x. Or I could have done a 2x, 3x. I could do 112, 2, 6, or 3, 4. Okay, so now you go ahead, look for partners. What with what, and your partners have to make an 8 and a 9 when you partner them up. Okay, so here's my partners. There's an 8 and a 9. Okay, so I'm going to start with a 2x and a 3x because I know that's my first times my first to make my 6x squared. Okay, here is the O and the I. Make up your partners. So the 2x goes with a 4, 3x goes with a 3, and we don't have to think about the signs because we said they're both negative. Okay, this is going to be a fraction answer. You remember how to do a little bit of a shortcut here? It's a fraction. What over what? Positive 3, you opposite divide, right? Opposite divide. Okay, number 9. What do you want to do? GCF. A 3 is divisible out of there, and a x, right? Everything has a 3 and an x that you would be able to divide by. So then I'm left with an x and a negative 6. Does everybody know that on your test, right, if you think about multiplying that out, you always should get back to the start. Especially the complex, checking that out, you should be able to FOIL that all just to check if it makes your original, right? Okay, so on this one, x could be 0, right? Because 3 times 0 makes 0. Or x could be 6. Okay, number 10. What do you want to do? Isolate. I only have one variable, that b squared, so I got to get it alone. So I'm going to be moving stuff away from it. So minus 20. I'm going to divide by 4. To get b alone, I will need to square root. And what should we answer here? There's no solution. There is no possible way for you to square something and end up negative. Or you can never square root a negative number, right? Okay, Okay, number 11. Strategy. Should we pick isolation again? I only see one variable type in that equation. Okay, so how would I like to start this? I would like to group those x squareds together first. So remember my hint was take away the smaller one. Isolation. I'm going to do isolation, which means collecting stuff together and trying to move everything else away from it to get it all by itself, right? Okay, so this becomes 3x squared plus 7. That's going to be gone, and then I get 55. Okay, now I'm going to subtract 7. Divide by 3. So to get x alone, I got to square root that square away. And then what will you want to answer there? Positive or negative 4. I don't see any examples of something like this, but like what if this was the root of 20? What if it was something like that instead of 16? What would be different about your answer? Then you would just leave it as a root. I don't need you to state a decimal number when it is like that. Just leave it. This is good because it simplifies to just 4, right? But the root of something else, if it doesn't simplify to a whole number or integer like that, just leave it. Okay, number 12. What do you think? Can we do a difference of squares? Are we okay with that? You know what? I think I wanted something else in here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to change it to a 4th degree. Changing the question on you. Okay, so that is my question. What are you going to do? It's a difference of squares. So to get y to the 4th, we're going to do a y squared. Anybody know what the root of 625 is? 25. So this is going to be a plus 25 minus 25. Now what? There is stuff for me to keep going here. This is a difference of squares. So that's going to be y plus 5, y minus 5. But what about this bracket? Do you remember that this bracket doesn't go anywhere? Do you remember why it doesn't go anywhere? Okay, I want you to think about what you would need right in this position. You would need this y squared to be a negative 25, right? Could this ever square to give you a negative 25? No. So therefore, it's not factorable. There's no solution for it, so it cannot break down. Okay, and if I was stating if it was all alone, I'd be writing no solution. But since there's a solution for this, I'm not going to, there's technically no solution on that piece, but there is a solution for the whole equation. So, but you still need to write it, you just can't break it down. Okay, number 13. What do you want to do there? If you were to pick anything in the whole wide world to solve that, which method would you pick? You're free to pick anything you want. I would do the formula, yeah. It might factor, but my fluid number is 196. I could try to think of multiples of that to make 28 if I want, but it might take a long time to get that. So let's just try the formula. So x equals, you kind of have it on your paper, right? You see it? It's right below you. So negative b, so 28 plus or minus the square root of, can you do 28 squared? Remember that that part is always positive, because if you're squaring a positive, if you're squaring a negative, just write a positive number there. Minus 4 times the a number times the c number. All over 2 times the a. Okay, now x equals 28 plus or minus the square root of something over 8. So now I'm going to be doing that in my calculator, seeing what kind of value this is. Did you get a 0? Okay, what do you think? 28 plus 0, 28 minus 0. Would we just be okay if I said that's all irrelevant? So how many solutions do I already know I'm going to have? If this is 0, then there's going to be just one answer, right? So 28 divided by 8, x is 3.5. Okay, if you had figured out your complex factoring, by the way, if you had, you don't need to write this, but if you had figured out your complex, you would have done 14 times 14, and your sets would have looked like this. Whoops. That's what your sets would have looked like. So here's your 4x squared, here's your negative 14x, and positive 49. So x equals 7 over 2. And what does x equal in this bracket? 7 over 2. So that's why you only have one answer. Okay, number 14. You recognize what you want to do there? I'm going to work to isolate some stuff, okay? So, should we get rid of the 2 there? Okay, now I need to get rid of the divide by 4, so I'm going to times by 4. Now what? This looks very similar to the complete the square kind of idea. I square root. The square gets rid of the square root, or whatever, vice versa. So just x minus 4. What do I put here, though? Positive or negative 6, right? This is this completing the square, what it would look like by the end. So x equals positive or negative 6 plus 4. Okay, normally you would kind of leave it like that if it looked messy, but this, can you tell me 2 numbers? Can you figure out what 2 numbers would be? So the first time you do a number, it's positive 6 plus 4. And then the second time you do the number, it's negative 6 plus 4. So 6, so positive 6 plus 4 is 10. I'm doing a positive 6 plus 4. That's 10, right? So the second time, I got to do negative 6 plus 4. Okay, 15. I don't like the look of it. What do you want to do to change maybe it to look a little different for us? Multiply everything by 2. So 2x squared. What's that middle part then? If I multiply 7 over 2 by 2, do you understand? It cancels, right? Just the 7 now. Minus 4. Okay, so now it just looks different to me. And now I want to recognize a style. So now I turned it into a complex trinomial. Okay, FLA. Negative 8, 1, 8, 2, 4.
Couldn't you also use the equation of them with the quadratic?
Yeah, were you using it with like a 3.5? Like you could have just started on the top with the equation. Is that,
Well,
yeah.
you could also do it on this one, though.
Right? Yep. The equation always works. Yep. Okay, do we have something that does this? Positive 8 and negative 1. Okay, so now I'm going to list my F options, my L options. Check out your F stuff, your L stuff, make some partners. You need a 1 and an 8 out of your partners. There's a 1 and there's an 8. Okay, so in my brackets I already put the first and the first. I'm going to loop the O and the I. 1 with the 1, 2 with the 4. I got to make sure I have a positive 8x and a subtract 1x. the first answer is actually just a whole number, right? Because it's just a 1x, so it's -4. But that second is a fraction answer. Okay, ready? Next one, solve by using the quadratic formula. Okay, I can't use the formula actually right now. What do you guys want to do? The 7 is going to move because I need 0. Okay? You got to recognize that if you don't have a 0, you can't even do any of your stuff. Okay, so now I have the A, the B, and the C values, right? Once I moved it. Okay, so let's try the formula. Negative B, so -3 plus minus the square root of b squared. So do that before you write it. What is the b squared? 9 minus 4 times the a number times the c number, all over 2 times the a number. Okay, so the bottom I'm going to put as a 4, and I'm going into my calculator, and I'm going to get that value there. $65? Anybody matching? Okay. What do you already know for how many solutions there will be? There's going to be 2 solutions on this thing because 65 is a positive value. Okay, so your calculator work. Your calculator work. You're going to have to do it 2 different times, being very careful with positives and negatives, okay? And then when you are doing this in your calculator, your answer should go to 2 decimals. Okay, what do we think about those answers? Are we matching? Something, anybody? Calculator work. If you're not matching, it's maybe something you're typing brackets properly. Okay, this one said sketch something. So what does this mean to you in a graph? It's an x-intercept of 1.27 and an x-intercept of -2.77. And what is some general information we know about what the graph looks like, the shape of the graph? It's a parabola, right? We know that. What kind of U shape is it going to be? Upward or downward? It's going to be upward, right? And this is your y-intercept, but I'm not too concerned about that. I'm just concerned that you are understanding, whoops, I got to make it look symmetric-y, right? I just kind of want that idea of understanding. That's what it means on a graph. So, and I know that it opens up. It's a parabola up. Okay, almost done. 2 questions left. How many solutions? Okay, so when I do this, do you understand? I'm not going to do the whole formula. I'm going to do that chunk, which is called the discriminant. Okay, so b squared minus 4ac. That's all I'm doing. Okay, so this is 9 minus the 4 times the a number times the c number. And that is negative 11. So what shall I answer at this point about what I know? How many x-intercepts are on this graph? There's no solutions, no x-intercepts. So what if I thought about a visual? It could be something like that, right? In case you need a visual on your test, it's not going to ever cross. Okay, here we go again, the b squared minus 4ac. 81 minus 4 bracket 2 bracket negative 5. So it's a very common mistake just to kind of forget that negative. Make sure it's in there. See what kind of number you get. Okay, I got 121. So thinking about the formula, if I'm here and I square root 121, I'm going to end up with 2 solutions. Okay, and the last one. B squared minus 4 times A times C. I got 0. This is going to have 1 solution. So if I just thought quickly a sketch of something that would have just 1 solution, that's kind of what's going on with a parabola. So, okay, last one is the complete the square. I'm going to change this question. I don't think I want it this hard. Can you change this to a 6x? Sorry, what's that? That one? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm changing that to a 6x. Okay, so completing this square, I'm going to actually divide everything by 3 to start. Okay, now I would like to make my own trinomial. Remember, I want my own trinomial, so I'm going to move that last part of the trinomial over to make room for my trinomial. Okay, so you're going to fill out what you want in that blank spot. Remember how to do that. Divide by 2 and square. Divide by 2 and square. So 1. And now I need to add 1 on the other side. Okay, because you made that trinomial, it's going to go into a binomial squared. Some kind of binomial squared. So x plus 1. Okay, and I'm actually going to keep this as a fraction here. Instead of 1, can you make that something different so that I could add it with this? How would you change 1 in order to add it to this fraction? I'm going to change 1 to be 3 over 3. Is that okay? That's still 1, right? So 13 over 3. Okay, now I'm going to square root both sides. And there's my answer, because I need to still move the 1 across yet. So remember the plus minus. Remember that this square root is on the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to challenge you here. I want you to give me 2 decimal answers. Could you turn this result into a decimal for me? And there's going to be 2 options, because the first time you're going to do positive of that root, subtract 1, and then the next time you're going to do a negative of the root. Can you turn it into a decimal? I want to see if you can type that in properly. Are we matchy-matchy? 1.08? What's that?
How did you get those?
So I did it like this. The square root of the square root of 13 divided by 3, but I had to do that in brackets, and then subtract 1. And then I did negative root 13 divided by 3. And then the next time I put a negative in front of it, minus 1.